Okay, so this is my first official post on here, but I have to share this story. It happened about 3 years ago. I live in the United States. I was a 6'1", 210-pound, 23-year-old white male college student that was living in a predominantly Hispanic, low-income neighborhood when everything occurred. After 5 minutes after my Pizza Hut shift one night, I decided to walk across the street to buy a couple of tall boys at my local liquor store. Excited about being the weekend and getting to sleep in the morning, I know, I had no life. So, as the cashier was handing me my bag of booze across the counter, a muffled yet short female scream reverberated throughout the store just from outside. I distinctly remember how pitiful it sounded. The cashier and I made that certain eye contact where you're both just like, "What the fuck?" After a brief silence, he just shrugs his shoulders and slowly tells me to be careful getting home. I nod my head and start out after giving him a gracias over my shoulder. I know it seems like we may have underreacted, but honestly, you see and hear a lot of crazy shit in this city, especially at night. Even with that being said, thinking about how pitiful it sounded gave me a mixture of disgusted anger and cold fear. My heart speeding up at this point, I opened the liquor store door slightly and looked around outside. After hearing and seeing nothing but traffic for about 15 minutes, I decided to start walking home. Head down, eyes and ears open, but as soon as I rounded the liquor store corner, I was greeted by an obviously intoxicated but somehow steady, short, stocky Hispanic man with a scratched up face and a really stretched out shirt. Assuming he was one of the few drunks that lived in the small but dense patch of forest about 12 feet behind the store, I completely disregarded him and continued walking. At first. Something about his behavior caught my attention. He looked extremely nervous and as if he were up to something. Also, I could hear a faint, almost non-existent, gurgle-like sound coming from the trees. Immediately, I began to suspect he had something to do with the scream I'd heard just minutes before. Upon making eye contact, he caught on fast that I suspected him. "Está bien?" Spanish for, "How are you?" He awkwardly asked me, smiling way too much and motioning for me to follow him into the darkness behind the store. I pretty much told him to fuck off and continued walking home at a much faster pace now, looking behind me every 16 or so steps. I began wondering what the hell that noise was coming from the woods and why the man was acting so shady. Maybe I was overreacting though. Maybe the sound was just an old pipe or drain nearby. Maybe he really was just drunk and didn't want me to call the cops on him for some public intoxication or something. I now wish with everything within me I would have called the police then and there and went into the store and waited. About 5 minutes later, while walking down the particularly dark and isolated stretch of road about half a mile before my apartments, out of fucking nowhere, the man I'd just seen burst out through some shrubbery about 12 feet from me, on my back left wielding a fucking machete. That's right, a fucking machete. Honestly, you can't make this shit up. I immediately went into panic mode and threw my beers at him and began running as fast as my legs would carry me toward my apartment building, hoping I had enough strength left within me to make it. I now realized I should have ran back towards the store, as it was closer. But, as I stated, he came from behind me and the rest is instinct. He was initially so close to me I swear I could hear the blade cutting the air as he swung at me from behind. I honestly expected a machete blow to the neck or head at any second. That's a very unique, very hard state of mind to be in, knowing that you could die at any moment. The worst, most gruesome thoughts of me being murdered began to fill my mind. Would I trip, only to have a defenseless arm hacked off right before my eyes? Or would I be halfway decapitated mid-strike, falling hard and bleeding out as my other parts of my body were cut away? Tears began to fill my eyes at the thought of my family, of how they would feel knowing I was hacked to death, bleeding out on the side of a dark road alone. I began to scream, half out of desperation to live, the other half out of fear of not wanting to die such a horrible death. I know it sounds bitchy, but you can't really judge until you're being chased down by someone who literally wants to hack apart your body until you die. I'll try to shorten this story a little now. Yes, I eventually made it home. Some part of me knew I'd lost the guy way before getting there. but my fear and adrenaline refused to let me stop running. I collapsed as soon as I'd made it inside and tried to focus on not going into cardiac arrest from not only running so hard, but out of fear for my life. I tried to remember everything I'd learned in the Army about 2-mile recovery drill. It helped a little. Anyone who's been in even a remotely similar situation can understand why I never called the police. After much needed water and heavy breathing, it was 30 minutes before I could even put a chain of complete rational thoughts together due to shock and mental physical exhaustion caused by what just happened. By which time, the guy would be long gone. I remember all I could think about was how the hell I didn't hear him getting that close to me after 5 whole minutes of walking, especially with him being under the influence and me being sober. Needless to say, after double-checking all the doors and windows, I fell into a paranoid sleep, gripping a kitchen knife soon after. The next day, I came to find a young, teenage girl had been raped and killed behind the same store around the time I had been leaving the previous night. Her throat had been slit, and her body dumped not far from where she'd been raped. Every person that lived behind the store was tested against the semen found inside the girl's body, and not one was a match. As far as I know, the guy has never been caught. I'm 120% sure that the scratched face and stretched shirt on the man I'd seen the previous nights were remnants of the poor girl's futile attempts to fight off her rapist and killer, and that the suspicion he saw on my face was enough for him to want to kill me, as he must have thought I was a witness or something. The mother of the child had only sent her there to buy some orange juice for something she'd been making for dinner that night. The local store was the closest carrier of OJ in the area. I can't help but feel kinda guilty though, and I feel so horrible for the girl's family, especially the mother. If I'd called the police then and there and went back inside, would he have been caught? I remind myself that things played out that way they did, and that I can't change the past. The worst part, though, is thinking that the gurgling sound I'd heard was the girl trying to breathe, desperate, choking on her own blood mere yards from me. I'm almost certain this is true. Also, who the fuck just carries around a damn machete? Is that what he used to cut the girl's throat? Nevertheless, Michael Myers, machete-wielding rapist, let's never meet ever again. So, whether you're reading or listening to this, don't ever forget to be wary of strangers, even if they turn into close friends. Make sure you're 100% positive that they won't do what this girl did to me. So, even though I cannot stand this girl, privacy's still privacy, so we'll call this girl Christy. Also, all the names used in this story is not the person's real name. So, this all started 2 years ago in 2014, while I was in 8th grade, out at Car Riders, which, for those of you that don't know, it's the hangout place while we waited for our parents to pick us up. Christy would always hang out with her then boyfriend and make out with him and whatever. Nothing we haven't seen before. I would hang out with my friends, she would be over with her boyfriend, who we'll call Henry. Pretty much, they would have sex at his house, and he would brag about it like he was the first person to ever have sex. So, after a little while, I started talking to Christy. Not to date her or anything, but because I just recently moved to Georgia, which is where this takes place. So after a while, we started texting, and Henry dumped her. I'll admit, it was pretty fucked up how he did it. He kinda just said, "Hey, I only want you for sex. You're ugly. Bye." So yeah, that was quite fucked up, to be honest. But you would think if someone dumped you like that, you wouldn't want to go back to them, right? Nope, not this bitch. She was literally addicted to him for some reason. This went off and on until like midway through 9th grade. Then, she came to me. She was like, "Hey, do you want to go to the movies sometime?" Being 14, I was like, shoot, I'll be able to make out with a girl that doesn't look half bad? Shit, I'm all down for that. I wasn't gonna have sex with anyone at 14, so yeah, only making out and stuff. Don't judge me. So, we went to the movies, we made out, and I thought that was it. It was a little messed up, but I was thinking I could easily start dating her because we did like each other. But she wasn't really my type, or that good looking. But it was whatever. So I told her I thought I liked her when we went to the movies, but she just wasn't my type. This is when shit hit the fan and my life took a drastic toll. So, a month after the movie incident, I started dating another girl, which turned out to be a crazy bitch too, but that's a completely different story. So anyways, the girl I was dating, who we'll call Hannah, was really pretty and very nice. But when I started dating her, Christy became furious. She called me one day screaming at me, asking how could I cheat on her. Christy, we weren't together, I said. No, but I thought we had something. I love you. I can't let you go. Well, sorry, Christy. You said the exact thing about Henry and you let him go. Sorry, but you deserve someone who loves you. You don't want a fake relationship, do you? I asked. All she kept doing was saying how she loved me so much and wanted me forever. But I didn't love her, or like her, or anything. She was pretty snobby and rude anyways, so I was tired of it. I said, Look, Christy, I don't love you, and you don't love me. There's no way you love me, because if you did, you would accept the fact that I don't want you. Sounds kinda stuck up, I know, but I just wanted to get off the phone with her. Before she hung up, she said, We'll see how long you and Hannah last. I wasn't exactly worried about it because she's known for being a lying slut at our school. I know it sounds harsh, but trust me, if you knew her like everyone else did, then you would have the same opinion about her. The next week went by with nothing crazy happening. Then, she texted my girlfriend saying that I had sex with her. Christy even went to the extent of telling her current boyfriend that we did. Only problem is that she said we had sex behind a pond at my house. My girlfriend knew that I didn't have any pond at my house. Actually, I didn't have any type of water that could be mistaken for a pond either. So my girlfriend wrote it off, and so did I. The next day, she confronted me about it in front of a lot of people at lunch. She yelled, I don't know why you're denying that we fucked behind your house. You know you love me. I started laughing, looked her in the eyes and said, If it were true, then you know I don't have a pond behind my house like you tried to tell my girlfriend. If you're gonna lie, at least get the facts right. Then we went to the principal's office because of it. Thankfully, they believed my side of the story instead of hers. I mean, I even told them, if you want to call my mom and ask her just to be sure that she hasn't even been to the house and that I don't even have a pond at my house, you can. Christy got suspended, and to be honest, everyone kind of forgot about it, and I was glad. It was seriously just stupid. When she came back, that's when the death threats began. She gave my girlfriend notes telling her she would kill her if she didn't break up with me. My girlfriend, for some reason, didn't give it to the police or the school board. To be honest, I don't know why. She didn't even tell me until a few months later. Christy started threatening me as well, telling me she'd humiliate my girlfriend right in front of me and then force me to date her. This didn't scare me, as I took karate and jiu-jitsu a few years before, and I have a collection of knives and guns. So, if she tried anything, I knew I'd be fine. I was worried about my girlfriend, but her dad was a cop, so again, I wasn't too scared. I ignored Christy every time she tried to talk to me. Then, one day, she pulled a knife on me at school. Christy, what the fuck are you doing? You're gonna kill me? Have fun trying to pull that off, I said. I'm not gonna lie, I was nervous, but knew that the worst thing she could do is just cut me, not kill me, because the knife wasn't even 3 inches long, which is also why she got away without charges or anything, because the law says no blades over 3 inches is allowed on school property, and because she didn't verbally say she was trying to harm me, she got away with it. I was pissed off now, like, really mad, knowing that she could have harmed me or my girlfriend, and probably could have said something like, it slipped out of my hand. And again, because it wasn't 3 inches, she most likely wouldn't have gotten in big trouble. So, that weekend, my girlfriend came over, and we walked through the woods, kissed, and made out, and just relaxed because Christy had been putting so much stress on her and I. All of a sudden, I hear a twig snap. Because of a traumatic childhood, which is another story, My reflexes immediately caused me to snap and pull my pistol in the direction it came from. This has caused problems before, but I don't carry guns in public places, so I'll just quickly, half turn if something surprises me, then just continue on. Anyways, Hannah said it was probably nothing, so I tried to brush it off, but something just didn't feel right about it. I'm a religious Christian, so in my head, I asked God if he could keep me and Hannah safe, and that if something was wrong, to give me a sign. Around 5 minutes after, we heard shuffling and some more twigs snap. This time, I didn't brush it off. "Who's there?" I shouted, not expecting a response, so I started walking towards where the noise came from, with the pistol, for those who are wondering, an 1831 black powder revolver, cocked and ready. Next thing I know, I'm pushed down and have a stinging pain in my back. When I looked up, it's her, Christy, and in her hands is a knife bigger than 3 inches. "You should have dated me, Davin. Now you're gonna die a slow and painful death." I shit you not, that's what she said. I was in shock for a second, and then I snapped back into reality and grabbed her arm that she was about to stab me with and pushed her wrist backwards and broke it. Then she dropped the knife and started screaming in pain. I then pushed her off of me and I ran back to the trail, not letting her out of my sight, and then we called the police. While we were waiting, Hannah said she was sorry she didn't help me, that she was too shocked. I just said it was fine, but before I could finish, she screamed and said, "Davin, you're back!" I looked and pulled my shirt up and saw that, in fact, Christy did cut me, quite deep as well. I guess I didn't notice because of the adrenaline. I still have the scar, and I'll attach an image too to show you. Why the cut is wide, I don't know since she cut so quickly. Maybe she had an awkward angle or something, I don't know. When the cops arrived, they took me and Hannah's statements. While they were doing a quick search of the area, they found a bag. In this bag, there was another knife, rope, duct tape, pictures of me and Hannah taken without our knowledge, and a blank camera. The cops said that most likely Christy was probably going to take pictures of the event or record it and sell it. I was assuming it was going to probably go on the deep web or something like that. Anyways, she was just put in jail for attempted homicide and trespassing, but I don't know where she went. If she went to juvenile prison or what, once she was gone, I was happy. Now me and Hannah aren't together anymore, and I've moved on with my life now. And also, sorry for the length and the picture quality. If you look good close enough, you'll see the scar. So Christy, let's not ever meet again. Signed, Dark Fury. I don't usually do this, but this has traumatized me for a while, so I'm gonna get it out of my system. When I was 16 years old, I lived in a rural area in England, in a small village, if you could call it that, as it was nothing more than a bunch of houses with a small store. The closest school was the next town over, and that was a half an hour away, so every morning I would have to get up at 6 a.m. to catch the bus, and yes, it sucked. But it wasn't all bad because of the 2 other kids who lived there who were close to my age, Connor and Courtney. Names have been changed. Courtney was the year below me, and Connor was in my class. We got on the bus together every morning, and over the weekends and holidays would hang out together at each other's houses, or loiter at shops until we got kicked out. Anyway, at the time, I had a cat which I had gotten for my 15th birthday. His name was King because he looked like a king. He was a huge white cat with green eyes and an attitude. I loved that cat so much, so when he went missing, it fucked me up pretty good. I spent weeks crying my eyes out waiting for him to come home, but he never did. Soon, it began going around that a lot of neighbors' cats had been disappearing, as well as none of them have been found on the roads, so people assumed that a fox had gotten them. It was the weekend, and me, Connor, and Courtney had decided that we were bored of hanging around Courtney's. So, we decided to go exploring, which meant that we would walk around the backwoods until we were completely lost, and then trying to find our way back. It was stupid, but fun. Anyway, we were going up a back road we had never been up before when we came across a pathway leading off the road. It was unkempt and looked like nobody had used it for years. We went down the path excited to see where it had led, and we were even more excited when we found an old, run-down house at the end of it. The door was open and barely standing. Connor carefully moved it aside and we went in. The smell was putrid, and I'm pretty sure I retched a little. Everything was filthy and falling apart. Just being there gave me a weird, sick feeling in my stomach. Something didn't feel right. Courtney must have felt it too because she immediately began complaining that we should leave. I would have left if I hadn't been trying to impress Connor, who, at the time, I had a huge crush on. So, instead of agreeing with her, Connor and I called her a pussy and teased her until she agreed to come with us through the rest of the house. We went through what looked like to be the living room, and it was covered in dirt and piles of trash. The smell got worse as we made it to the bottom of the stairs. Courtney made it clear that she didn't want to go up there. But when we told her to wait for us there, she made it even clearer that she didn't want to do that either. So we all went up together, Courtney clinging to my arm and me clinging to Connor, who went up first. At the top of the stairs, there was a corridor, about 3 rooms. It was just as filthy as downstairs, and the smell was 10 times worse. We piled into the first room we came to, pushing Connor in first, only for him to freeze. I looked over his shoulder and nearly puked. The room was full of decomposing bodies of what looked like to be cats, all piled up against the wall. The stench was horrendous. I heard Connor whisper, "Oh shit," under his breath, and I guess Courtney, who was outside the room, heard it too because she loudly began asking what it was. But before I could tell her to shut up, from the corner of the room came something flying through the air. It hit Connor straight in the chest and fell to the floor. It was a decaying cat corpse, and it was followed by a deranged screaming of, "Get out!" And from out of the same corner stumbled a filthy old man. He began to stagger towards us. We immediately got the hell out of there, and I don't remember much about it other than me and Courtney screaming our heads off, and me tripping over one of the door frames on our way out until we couldn't run anymore. Luckily, we remembered our way back, but it took us at least 30 minutes to get back home. And in that time, we sped walked as fast as we could, jumping at every sound and, of course, on my part, crying as I repeatedly asked him if he thought my cat was in there. Connor just kept replying that he didn't know and asking me if I thought the man had followed us. We finally made it back and ran into the closest house which one of us lived in. It was Courtney's. We hurriedly explained what happened, and Courtney's mom called my mother, Connor's mother, and then the police, who came by a couple of hours later and took statements. Connor told me that they came back a few days later and said the cats were there, but there was no sign of the man. When I was visiting my mother earlier this month, my boyfriend and I went to check out the house, but it had been knocked down. I have no idea what that man was doing there that day, or if he had killed all the cats. But I have a feeling that my cat was somewhere within those corpses, and it still makes me sick to this day. There are some messed up people out there.
Hey everybody, Sue Siren here. Sorry the video came out a little late this week. Don't worry, I am still going to try to post a video every midweek, but it might change a little bit depending. Might be a Tuesday, Wednesday, or a Thursday. It is the holiday season and I do work with money, so I am very busy, but I will definitely be posting a video every Saturday and definitely posting another one every midweek. If you guys have any suggestions or anything that you might want to submit, please absolutely submit to soothsirenstories@gmail.com. And just remember, guys, you shouldn't believe everything you hear, or should you?